It was supposed to be the happiest day of the year, Christmas lights glowing, gifts under the tree, and then he handed me a red envelope. Inside were divorce papers. My heart stopped, but what he didn't know was I had a surprise of my own, and it changed everything. If you've ever felt blindsided by someone you love, this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with someone who needs to know. Sometimes heartbreak leads to a powerful comeback. Christmas morning was always my favorite. I woke up to the smell of cinnamon and cocoa, the kind that wraps around you like a warm blanket. The twinkling lights on the tree were still glowing from the night before, and holiday music hummed softly in the background. I padded into the kitchen in my fuzzy pajamas, smiling, thinking it was going to be one of those picture-perfect mornings. Just me, him, and the magic of Christmas. I remember handing him his coffee and curling up next to him on the couch, expecting kisses, laughter, maybe even a surprise gift. But something was off. He wasn't smiling like he usually did. His eyes were somewhere else, distant. He barely spoke, barely touched his cup. I thought maybe he was just tired or stressed. But then he reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a red envelope. No ribbon, no card, just red. He handed it to me and said, "Open it later." I looked at him, confused, but something in my chest tightened. I opened it right there. And when I saw the word divorce, I couldn't breathe. It felt like the whole room collapsed in on me. I just kept staring, numb, while he sat there. Silent. After that day, I kept asking myself, how didn't I see this coming? But the truth is, the signs were always there. I just didn't want to believe them. He used to text me during the day, little things like, "How's your morning going?" or "Miss you." But a few months before Christmas, those messages slowed down, then stopped. He said work was just crazy busy, and I believed him. I wanted to believe him. We all want to believe the person we love wouldn't lie. He started staying out late, said he was working overtime or grabbing drinks with co-workers. When I asked questions, he got irritated, said I was being too controlling or paranoid. So I backed off. I thought maybe I was being too much, too needy. I blamed myself. He also stopped doing little things. No more surprise flowers, no more late-night talks, no more holding my hand just because. I convinced myself it was just a phase, that marriage had its ups and downs. But looking back now, I can see it so clearly. He had been detaching piece by piece, like he was slowly packing up emotionally before he ever handed me that envelope, and I just let it happen, because I loved him, and I didn't want to believe that love could fade without a warning. But there was a warning. I just ignored it, and that hurt worse than the papers. It hurt knowing I had been preparing for Christmas, while he had been preparing to leave me. I didn't say anything for hours. I couldn't. My body was sitting on the couch, but my mind was somewhere else. Like I had floated above everything, watching it all like a bad movie. Divorce papers. On Christmas. From the man I thought I'd grow old with. That night, after I had cried every tear left in me, I walked into our bedroom and stood in the doorway. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just torn our entire life apart. I cleared my throat and asked, "Why now? Why today?" He looked up. I didn't want to drag it out. "Drag what out?" I snapped. "You could have waited until after the holidays. You didn't even talk to me. You just handed me the papers like it was a gift." He sighed like I was the one causing drama. "Look, I've been feeling this way for a while. I didn't want to fake it anymore. I thought it would be better to just be honest." I remember staring at him, really staring, trying to find a trace of the man I married, the one who used to write me sticky notes and tuck them into my purse, the one who danced with me in the kitchen when I was having a bad day. But that man wasn't there anymore, just this cold stranger sitting across from me. "You planned this," I said quietly, "didn't you?" He didn't answer, but the silence was loud enough. That's when something in me shifted. The heartbreak didn't go away, it was still raw and heavy, but underneath it, something else started to rise. Anger. Not the reckless kind, but the kind that burns steady, the kind that tells you you're done being weak. He thought I would cry, maybe beginning, maybe crumble, but I didn't. I stood up straight, looked him in the eye, and said, "Okay, just that. One word." He blinked, surprised. "Okay? Yes, if that's how you want to do this, then fine. But don't think you're the only one who gets to decide how this ends." I walked away from that conversation with my heart in pieces, but with my pride still intact. I knew this wouldn't be easy. I knew the coming days would hurt more than I could even imagine. But I also knew something he didn't. I wasn't going to let this break me. In that moment, I stopped being the woman he left, and I started becoming the woman who would rise. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything, the memories, the lies. The way he didn't even flinch handing me those papers. I could have broken. I could have fallen into a mess of tears and self-pity. But something inside me clicked. I wasn't going to let him control the narrative, not anymore. I got out of bed before sunrise, made coffee, and opened my laptop. I started with a search. What to do when your spouse hands you divorce papers? That led me down a rabbit hole of articles, forums, and legal advice. I took notes. I saved everything. I called a lawyer that Monday, not the one he knew, someone fierce. When I told her what happened, she didn't pity me. She empowered me. She told me to start documenting everything, especially our finances. Turns out, he had been quietly moving money into another account. Typical. I opened my own bank account, transferred what I legally could, set passwords, changed locks. I wasn't loud about it. I didn't scream or throw plates like in the movies. I played it cool, calm, strategic. At night, when he was asleep, I backed up our photos, memories I still wanted, even if they hurt. I gathered receipts, emails, anything that could help later. And then, one day, I found it. Proof. He was cheating. It wasn't just emotional distance, it was betrayal. I saw the texts, the hotel reservations, the cute little messages. And I didn't cry, I just sat there, staring at the screen. And I felt free. Because now I knew it wasn't me. I wasn't unlovable. I wasn't crazy. He had made his choice long before Christmas. He just didn't think I'd find out. I took screenshots, sent them to my lawyer, and then I made a plan. I was going to leave, but on my terms, not his. I looked for my own place, one that felt like mine, not a shadow of what we had. I didn't tell anyone at first, not friends, not family. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted clarity, control. I started therapy, quiet sessions where I unpacked years of self-doubt. I began journaling, writing down every emotion, every memory, even the ones that hurt the most. And somewhere between the pages, I started finding myself again. The me I had lost while trying to keep a marriage alive. He had tried to break me on Christmas Day, but I was building something new from the ashes, something stronger, something unstoppable. The day I handed him my set of divorce papers was the day everything changed. He had just come home from work, tossing his keys on the counter like always. I was sitting at the kitchen table, calm, collected. I slid the envelope across to him and said, "You're not the only one who can make moves." He looked confused at first, then annoyed, like this wasn't part of his plan. He opened it and blinked, caught off guard. I could almost hear the thoughts racing in his head. "This is real?" he asked. I nodded. Very real. That moment felt like power, not because I wanted revenge, but because I had taken control of my story. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was choosing myself. He tried to act unfazed, but I could tell he was shaken. Maybe he thought I'd cling to him, that I'd beg to fix things. But all he saw now was a woman who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. From that point forward, things moved fast. I finalized the lease on my new apartment. It was small, but it was mine. I bought a cheap couch, painted the walls, and strung up fairy lights in the living room. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. The loneliness didn't hit right away, but when it did, it was brutal. I missed the idea of him, the version of him I fell in love with. But slowly, I started filling the quiet. I cooked meals just for me. I listened to music he used to hate. I laughed again, real, loud laughs that came from somewhere deep. I started a side hustle, selling handmade candles, something I had always wanted to do but never had the time or support for. Orders began to roll in. Not a fortune, but enough to remind me I was capable. Therapy helped too. I stopped blaming myself. I started seeing the patterns I had ignored, the ways I had shrunk to make him comfortable. But not anymore. I was done shrinking. And then something strange happened. He started calling, texting. Little things like, "Hope you're okay," or "I saw something that reminded me of you." I didn't respond, not out of spite, but because I didn't owe him any more of me. That chapter was over. The turning point wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, software empowering. It was me choosing peace over pain, healing over chaos. Me rewriting the ending of a story that he thought he controlled. But the truth is, I had already moved on, long before he realized I was gone. 1 year later, Christmas morning looked completely different. But for the first time in a long time, it felt right. There was no big tree full of shiny ornaments, no matching pajamas, no pretending everything was okay. Just me in my tiny apartment, wrapped in my favorite blanket, with a hot cup of coffee and cinnamon candles burning on the windowsill. The world outside was quiet. And so was my heart. Not empty quiet, peaceful quiet. I remember waking up and realizing I wasn't sad, not even a little. 12 months ago, I thought I'd never feel normal again. That pain, the kind that reaches into your chest and squeezes, used to follow me everywhere. At the grocery store, in the shower, even in my sleep. I kept thinking about what I lost. But somewhere along the way, I started focusing on what I was gaining. And that changed everything. This past year wasn't perfect. There were tears. There were lonely nights. There were days I questioned whether I had done the right thing by walking away without a fight. But those days became fewer. And in their place came growth, strength, joy. I rebuilt myself one little win at a time. I launched my candle shop online, something I dreamed of but always put on the back burner because life was too busy. Turns out, life wasn't too busy. I was just living someone else's version of it. Now I get orders from strangers who tell me my scents make their homes feel safe. That means more to me than any fancy dinner I ever had during my marriage. I also started taking care of myself, not just with skincare routines or workouts, but with grace. I forgave myself for missing the red flags. I stopped replaying the what ifs. I realized that holding on to hurt was only slowing me down. And then, like clockwork, he messaged me on Christmas morning, again. "Thinking of you today. Hope you're okay." For a second, I stared at the screen. Not because I was tempted to reply, but because I wasn't. And that surprised me. A year ago, that message would have shattered me. Today, it felt distant, like a message from a past life. I didn't answer. I simply placed my phone face down, pulled my blanket tighter around me, and smiled. This Christmas wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving anything. It was about peace, about looking around at the space I created with my own hands and knowing, this is mine, every inch of it, earned with tears, healed with time, and built with love for myself. He handed me divorce papers thinking he was ending something. But the truth is, he gave me the greatest gift, the chance to start over. And this time, I didn't just survive. I became unstoppable. If you've ever been hurt and felt like your world was ending, remember, you have more power than you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories. Give this video a like and let me know in the comments, what would you do if someone handed you divorce papers on Christmas Day?